14 games in the NHL for Saturday, January 31st. Welcome to the Pre-Scout on WagerTalk TV. Really pumped up for this one here. We got a great guest for us, and we're looking forward to breaking down all 14 games. Of course, as always, we always say some games we'll touch on more than others. Some games we'll have more thoughts on than others. And of course, we'll take a look at some player props as well. As always, this show is proudly presented to you by the HOF App, hofapp.com. But it's a busy time in the NHL right now. These players, they're trying to fight for their lives, for positioning, for standings before the break for the Olympics gets here. Next Thursday, the final day for a couple weeks of NHL hockey. But we got a busy guy coming on here today. Ian Cameron joining me. And, a lot of you guys might not know this, but the very first person I ever did any type of NHL content with is Mr. Bobano, Ian Cameron. So, Ian, great to have you as always. People have been talking about the Ice Guys and, shouting people out and talking with me. I said, hey, listen here. I was one of the Ice Guys. I always have to remind people. So there's no competition. There's no shows, this or that. We all support each other, and it's great to see you.
No doubt. Good to see you, Andrew. It's like I said, the white whale guest, if you will. You've been trying to nab me down here for a while, get me on the pre-scout, and finally made it work. Nice to have a day here. We're recording this on Friday. No Ice Guys show for Alex and I today. So nice to be able to come on here in the afternoon and get ready for a huge Saturday slate. I'm looking forward to this card. It's been a terrific NHL season so far for me. You're looking to keep it rolling. I know you've had a great run of late, and you're absolutely right. Andrew and I were in the first incarnation of the Ice Guys show. When that show first started, Andrew, me, Alex B. Smith, and Dana Lane was the first group that made the Ice Guys happen. And like I said, great memories. And it's pretty crazy that at the time, you're just getting your feet wet in the industry. And I'm a 5-6 year at least grizzled veteran at that time. And now you fast forward to 2026, and I've been at this for 15 years now, and you've been at this for going on 10 years. So look at this. Time doesn't stop for anybody.
Man, oh man, time flies. Time flies. I'll never forget those SBR videos. I got thrown in, I think it was during the end of the regular season, going into the playoffs, first time working together. And then we said, you know what? We got some good chemistry. We've had some fun together. Let's do a CFL video together. And then we kept on going with that. So a lot of great memories.
Breakdown.
Together.
Still remember the name of that show too.
Yeah. A lot of good memories together, and I'm happy we were able to get together in person in Hamilton one time, and hopefully we can have a couple beverages again sometime together, and maybe catch a CFL game, me, you, and Bobby or something like that this summer. I think we can probably make that happen. But Ian, we don't want to waste too much time because we have so many games to get to, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity just to talk a little bit about the NHL season so far. I've been talking a lot on my shows about, number one, the Atlantic Division, but also the Metro and the East as a whole. It's been a long time since we've seen the Eastern Conference perform at such a high level and how competitive it's really been. And also the change of the guard, the Buffalo Sabres, the Montreal Canadiens, Detroit Red Wings, some of these teams stepping it up. The Avalanche, besides, as of late, they've been such a dominant force in the league here. How about Macklin Celebrini and the Sharks? Your overall picture on this NHL season so far?
Yeah, it's been it's been fascinating to see how tight things are in the Atlantic Division, in particular in the Eastern Conference, and we have seen a bunch of surprises in the Atlantic Division. We've seen the Florida Panthers, the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. At the moment, they look like they're on life support to make the playoffs at this point in time. 8 points out of a playoff spot. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs that have just absolutely gone downhill here of late, a winless homestand. They start their road trip with a loss to Seattle. They're now 10 points out of a playoff spot. Yet that Atlantic Division, you look at it right now, and there's still only 15 points separating first to last place, which is the shortest number of points, smallest number of points separating first to last in any division in the NHL. But you've got a great race at the top with Tampa. By the way, with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I do want to take a moment to mention them. A lot of people earlier in the run that the Lightning put together, we saw them win the back-to-back Stanley Cups. A lot of people were kind of hesitant to give John Cooper a lot of credit because the teams were so good personnel-wise, 4 lines of depth. You had obviously a pretty good blue line. You have the guy that's been one of the best goalies in the NHL all this time, and Andrei Vasilevsky. A lot of people just said, hey, John Cooper just had a great team. No, he's a damn good, great head coach. That's why a big part of why Tampa Bay is great. This is his best coaching job, certainly one of his best coaching jobs at the very least that he's ever done. When you think of the fact that Nikita Kucherov missed time early in the year, that Braden Point's missed several games, that he has been without 3 or 4 starting defensemen at one point this season, Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough missed time, Eric Chernak missed time, Emil Lilleberg, a good young defenseman on that Tampa team, he's missed time. To be missing multiple starting defensemen, to be missing some of your key forwards at various portions of the season, and to be chugging along at 34, 14, 2-2, 72 points, leading the division, number 1 in points right now in the Eastern Conference. We've got to give John Cooper a little love. There's a reason that he has always tabbed the last few times around to head coach Team Canada at the international hockey tournaments. He's done a phenomenal job, and the job he's done with Tampa Bay's been great. Detroit's much improved season's been great to see. And most of all, the Buffalo Sabres, Andrew. I don't think anyone saw them being at 67 points right now. And your Montreal Canadiens right there in the mix as well, within 5 points of the top spot in the Atlantic Division. And yes, there's concerns with Montreal about the goaltending. There's concerns about how will they match up against those strong, physical, heavy teams that sometimes can lean on Montreal a little bit. But what the Habs have done this year is pretty darn good as well.
Yeah, and since we've probably known each other, Ian, besides that COVID run, there hasn't really been too much for this Canadiens team. So although through my 20s, that team has driven me crazy, through my 30s, looking like a real bright future. So can't wait for that. And great point by you about the Tampa Bay Lightning and more importantly, John Cooper, because any coach can look good with a great team. How you find out a coach is really good is dealing with injuries and dealing with some change, and he has certainly done that. So I'm happy to have Cooper behind the bench with Team Canada, that's for sure.
And an unsung MVP of that team, he deserves love. I got to mention him, Darren Radish. Holy mackerel, has this guy been awesome. He has basically become the Victor Hedman of this team without Victor Hedman. He's basically filling his shoes. He's being asked to play the similar amount of minutes that Victor Hedman, the captain, always plays, play in every situation, 5-on-5 power play, penalty kill, and boy, has he been thriving. He's been putting up monster points too, scoring goals, putting up assists. Yeah, Darren Radish has been kind of the glue that has kept certainly that ailing blue line together this year for Tampa Bay.
And I will say, these Florida teams, man, I keep on talking about it. Some guys that watch the show that are living in Florida, they don't like it when I say it, but man, oh man, can another team win? Can a team that has cold weather finally win some Stanley Cups here? Because these Florida-based teams, they keep getting the job done. Let's jump into it here with our first game of the day. We've got an early start. It's going to be a long day of hockey here on Saturday. We've got the LA Kings, and we got a pick'em price here. And I'll tell you what, look at this matchup against the Philadelphia Flyers. Pick'em number 5.5. Flyers starting to drop off a little bit. A couple tough games in a row for them. How do you feel about these teams? I mean, everyone's talking about the LA Kings and their coaching staff. Were the Philadelphia Flyers overachieving a bit here? What does this number say to you at the pick'em price?
Well, the Philadelphia Flyers they're in a bad way right now. There's no question. They've been hurt with bad defensive play. They've struggled to keep the puck out of the net. Some of the breakdowns in their own zone have been absolutely egregious. You look at these last 2 losses in particular against Columbus and Boston, the back-to-back losses. You're just leaving players uncovered right in front of the net. There's breakdowns in communication, giving up odd man rushes, turnovers inside their own blue line. It's really been the gamut of problems for Philadelphia defensively, and I know it's driving Rick Tocchet nuts because one of his foundations this year, coming in as first-year head coach of this team, is making the team structure better, making them a better defensive team. And early in the year, Andrew, they were, playing some good defensive hockey, better defensive hockey. They aren't right now. That is a big concern. They're off those back-to-back losses to Boston and Columbus. They're 3 losses in a row, just 2-8 in their last 10 games. And like I said, it's been crazy to see how many goals they've given up. Just in these last 3 losses alone, the Islanders, Jackets, and Bruins, they've surrendered 15 goals, in those 3 games combined. So that's not going to win you many hockey games. Of course, they've also suffered from not having Dan Vladar, but Dan Vladar just came back against Columbus from injury. Naturally, while I like him and he's had a good season, certainly the best goalie they have, we didn't like him in that first start. One thing that you want to be aware of is these goalies this year that have come back from a long absence, and an injury of some kind, they have not been good in their first start. It's become a very clear performance pattern of struggles, Andrew, for goaltenders off a long absence. Look at what Aiden Hill looked like against Toronto in Vegas off a long injury. He didn't play well. Mackenzie Blackwood for Colorado. When he came back from a long absence, Andrew, he got lit up by Nashville.
Big time.
In Colorado. When you look at, obviously, Dan Vladar against Columbus, he struggled. When you look at Anthony Stolars, when he returned, and I still don't know why the hell they put him in there against Vegas with no conditioning stint, but they put him in there against Vegas. He couldn't catch the puck. The puck basically, he had it in his glove, it dropped, and there's Keegan Colasar slamming it in for a rebound, but he was rusty as hell. His first start after a long absence. So that's been a pretty clear pattern. Goaltenders that have been out for a while have struggled. I expect Dan Vladar to be the goaltender here in this game, Andrew, against LA. Keep in mind, Sam Erson's day-to-day with a lower body injury suffered against Boston. So I think Dan Vladar probably gets the start, and the fact he's got a game under his belt, hopefully helps him here a little bit. I don't trust LA in this spot, Andrew. You've got them off a 4-1 loss to Buffalo. They haven't had a bad road trip so far. They've won 2 of the 3 games. They beat St. Louis. They beat Detroit, but they lost to the red-hot Buffalo Sabres. The thing that concerns me, Andrew, for the Kings here is this is a 12:30 Eastern start. It's 9:30 a.m. locally on the body clock for the Kings. West Coast team playing such an early game like this. Philly now stewing after a few losses. Feels like a step-up spot for Philly. I don't know if I trust them to win the game, but, a market that I've really explored a lot more this year, especially with teams that I expect to be focused and come out strong, and maybe in situations like this where I don't fully trust them to hang on for 3 periods and win the game. I've gone to a lot of first goal, first period bets this year. And I think that's a good look here for Philadelphia. You can bet that at FanDuel, BetMGM, a couple different books have it. Philadelphia first goal, first period. I could see that being a good look here in this game. Philly coming out strong, getting on the board in the opening 20 minutes, pouncing on this Kings team, playing a very early game on their body clock as this road trip carries on. That's definitely something that I'm interested in here for this first game.
Great stuff. Yeah, solid breakdown. And I've seen you betting that, or I've heard you betting that, the first period play, first team to score, first goal. And this Philadelphia team, I don't have the splits in front of me, but I do know that they play a better brand of hockey when they are at home. They trust their systems better. I believe they're a better hockey team overall. And Ian, I know you don't like these type of bets because you're a 99% over better guy if you're betting totals. I like the under in this one. You talk about the body clock with Los Angeles. We talk about Philadelphia slumping a bit. They have been giving up some goals. And I know it hasn't always been the case because there's been some times this season so far, guys, where we have seen early games soar over the total. But we do know on a large scale, Ian, we've been able to have success over the last several years of early games having a little bit of a slower start to them. And look at the center depth that this Philadelphia Flyers team has. Christian Dvorak just got a big contract extension, former Montreal Canadian. Doesn't really bring much offense. You know what he does bring, though, is face-off wins and defensive play. And you look at Sean Couturier and just down the line, a couple of these guys, they play better at home, and you get that last change at home. So I feel like that will benefit them. And the LA Kings, I think this is the style of hockey they want to play in, especially if it's, ideal for them. But I think their head coach has kind of, turned them into more of a fast-paced team, but it hasn't necessarily happened to them. Like I do think on a large scale, unders correlate with both of these teams. When they're playing their type of hockey, they're not necessarily playing 1st to 4 or 1st to 5 wins when I look at how these two teams play. So although it's a 5.5, Ian, I might be starting my day off with an under here. We'll see what ends up happening. And as of late, I've really gone into the team totals. Like last year, I had a ton of success with it. And, sometimes with these 5.5s, I might pick one team to go under 2.5 at a plus price or a decent price, because that way you can be a 5-2 victory or 6, whatever it is. You just need that one team to go under 2.5. So maybe I do rock here with the under team total for Los Angeles, or we just take the under 5.5. But for me, I'm going to go with the old fashioned first day of the game of the day, under 5.5 goals.
So I've been on a lot of Philly overs, Andrew, but a lot of that has been because of Ersson and net. Like there's a clear drop. I'm so disappointed actually with the way he's played because I thought, this guy was showing last year at times, hey, they've got a little something here in the Swedish netminder Samuel Ersson, but he's had a real rough season. Kolosov, the few times we've seen him, it's been a nightmare. But Dan Vladar has been clearly their best goalie, and now you've had multiple games where you're just not keeping the puck out. And now you face an LA Kings team. Let's be honest, it's not the 80s Oilers, okay, that are rolling in here to Philadelphia. This is a team that I think you got a chance to maybe step up defensively, tighten things up, and maybe keep them off the scoreboard. And the focus is certainly, you would think, going to be on the defensive side of the puck here for Philly, coming off what we've seen from them, 15 conceded in the last 3 games combined.
Let's talk about the most dynamic team in the league, the most dominant team in the league, the Colorado Avalanche. But this is a team that's currently going through some struggles right now. And looking at Colorado, couple losses for them here. It's not just a few. They're starting to pile up here. I made a comment on a show a couple days ago that this team looks to be in cruise control before the Olympic break. I'm sure they wouldn't want to hear that. I'm sure they're not trying to be like that, but it certainly looks like that for me. Montreal gets the revenge. I was happy about that. Looking at my odds logic page, I'm seeing average number 145, 150 on the road against Detroit. Now, when I look at this team in Detroit, I'm not going to lie to you, Ian. It's been one of those teams that I've kind of been waiting for that regression bug to hit them all year long. Hasn't really happened. Do you think this is one of those spots that Colorado snaps out of it last game of their road trip?
It's tough to say. It's tough to say because there's been, I thought certainly early in that game they'd be ready to go against Montreal, and they weren't. They got scored on right away. And yes, they did tie it, but they never really recovered after that. It was a real rough night for them. It was a real rough night for Scott Wedgwood as well in net. And Montreal, give them credit. They took it to Colorado 7-3. This is now for the last 5 games where, and even going back further than that, really when Toronto beat them there in Denver, this is when this malaise kind of started here for Colorado. And since that loss to Toronto in overtime weeks ago in Denver, January 12th, this team is just 2-6 in their last 8 games. And the wins were a struggling Washington team and then a revenge game where they got payback against Toronto, who are now reeling. So it's been a very unimpressive run here for Colorado. And I'm here to tell everybody that Cale Makar, we love him as a defenseman. He's so important to this team. Devon Toews is every bit as important. I'm telling you, they have not been the same since he's been out of the lineup. He's excellent defensively. He's consistently one of the block shot leaders on this Colorado team. Another guy that plays in all situations. And to be honest with you, I think there's times where Cale Makar kind of loses his way. When Devon Toews isn't out there on the ice. They miss him dearly. And ever since he has been out, we can kind of trace back these Colorado struggles to him being out. Now, it's not all that. Their offense has been a little bit more scattershot. They haven't been defending as well. And Jared Bednar's voiced frustration about that repeatedly. And I don't think the goaltending's been nearly as good. And I think there's an element with so many of these Colorado players, Andrew, you mentioned the Olympic break on its way. Maybe they're just excited about that. And it's just a grind to come to the rink dialed in and focused and ready to play your A game every day. When you're where you are in the standings. Like, Andrew, no one's putting pressure on this Colorado team in the standings. And now we got so many of these players going to the Olympics. It's so easy to fall into one of these ruts where you're just not dialed in every day. And when that happens, this is the National Hockey League. Any team can beat anybody when you're not bringing your A game to the rink. And we're seeing that right now with Colorado. So I want no part of laying a price like this with them on the road, especially with an early start like this. But Detroit has lost 2 in a row. There are things that point to Detroit maybe coming back down to earth a little bit. John Gibson is already confirmed, believe it or not, as the starting goalie for this game on Saturday afternoon. Mackenzie Blackwood projected here for Colorado in this game. At the moment, I think what I would do is this could be, if you're going to look at the Colorado side, maybe you tackle the first goal, first period. But for the 60 minutes of the hockey game, Andrew, just I'm not ready at this price to back the Avs. Not sure I'll be there with Detroit, but at the moment, not a game that I don't think I'll be involved in this one too much.
Ian Cameron at Bobano Bets on X. If you aren't following him, guys, you better be. All kinds of free plays, shows on the ice, guys. Most days, I do believe, 2 p.m. Eastern live on YouTube, X, and multiple platforms as well. On the weekends, of course, 7 days a week, you can find Ian and the crew on the Ice Guys.
That's what we're proud of with that show. We don't take days off. We're there 7 days a week, every single game, every single day with me and Alex B. Smith. So, yeah, we love doing it.
Great stuff. And, for me with the Avalanche, I think, I've been saying a lot this year, Ian, that I got to keep it simple, stupid, that KISS method in the NHL. There's been so many winners that it just kind of breezed by me, whether it be Buffalo or fading Vancouver or whatever it might be. This to me, and I'm not overly a props guy. I pick and choose my spots. This to me, I mean, we had no point from Natchez. We had no point from McKinnon. A lot of the big guys didn't do much against the Montreal Canadiens. Like, people were talking about, hey, look, they're going to sleepwalk through that game against Ottawa, and then they're going to look forward to. I didn't really see much out of McKinnon in the last 2 games they've played. And it's going to be like almost like that Michael Jordan meme. Like, and I took that personally when people are saying that, hey, McKinnon's taking games off before the Olympics, because you've been seeing all kinds of people talk about it, like talking heads, broadcasters, TSN, Sportsnet. They're talking not just, I'm not saying McKinnon, but just players overall. And it's hard to blame people for saying that, just because there's really been so many injuries already, like Braden Point and, different Seth Jones, different guys going down. But I don't think McKinnon's going to be too happy, with his team putting it on cruise control. So whether it be the over 3.5 shots on goal, whether it's over 1.5 points, one thing I've been looking at a lot lately is the Marty Natchez assist, assist props and untapped market. People love to bet the points and the shots and the goals, but you get these superstar assist props and you get a really good number on that compared to just the point props and that kind of stuff. So I'll be looking at that. This, again, last game of the road trip for Colorado. If I was playing anything, it'd be early and often, a -0.5 goal or a first period money line. I do think they can take advantage of Detroit, but if I had to chart it right now, I would say Detroit's been a team that I've had to pretty much stay away from, because whenever I've gone against them, they've just continually proved me wrong. So nice to see this Red Wings team, Ian, getting it together. But player props, I think, or first period probably for Colorado is the way that I would go in this game. Remind you guys, we are going to have timestamps on the videos. So no graphics on screen, but timestamps for the videos. You guys can make sure to check out all the different games. We hope you watch the whole show, of course. Ian and I want you here the whole time. But if you want to check out a certain game, you guys can make sure to do that as well with the timestamps. And, of course, everything, all the details in the description of the video as well. Rangers and Pittsburgh. This one's a late afternoon game. How about this Rangers team, Ian? How about this Rangers team? I'm seeing a -185, 190 even at some books here for this Pittsburgh team. I don't know what's more of a shock, how much better Pittsburgh has been than people thought, or how much worse the New York Rangers have been than people thought they'd be. What's your take overall on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers are unbackable, period. There's no price that could get me to put a wager on this hockey team right now. There really isn't. I mean, it's just a listless bunch. They don't do anything well. They don't score consistently, especially at home. They don't defend well at all. The goaltending has been just a nightmare without Igor Shesterkin. And boy, does that not show you how much they miss Igor Shesterkin and all the blemishes he covered up. And now without him, they're like a rudderless ship. And whether it's Jonathan Quick, who's really had a rough go, and I don't know if his heart's in it too, as much as it would be if he was on a good team and a contending team. This is a guy that's been there, done that. He's won Stanley Cups. He's been viewed in the past as one of the best goalies in the NHL. What the hell left has he got to prove playing on this miserable, sad sack hockey team? Nothing. So you wonder if his head and his heart, are fully in it. Maybe that's reflecting on why he's struggling a little bit too in net. And obviously Spencer Martin, who's also getting some starts, is not exactly a guy you trust. He's basically been bounced around from team to team over the years. This Rangers team's now on a 1-5 slide in their last 6 games. They all look like they just lost a family member, talking about Artemi Panarin and the prospects of him getting traded. You watch all these interviews with Vinny Trocheck. Hell, even Braden Schneider, a young defenseman on the team. He's like near tears in the dressing room talking about losing Panarin. I mean, my goodness. So, yeah, there's a lot of issues right now for the Rangers. They don't do anything well. They just got held to 3 goals and 2 losses combined back-to-back against the New York Islanders. They've given up 3 goals or more now, this Rangers team, in, let me just count it up here, 9 of their last 10 games. So they're not keeping the puck out of the net. Pittsburgh rolling, 5 straight wins. Tough spot at home against Chicago. And I took Chicago first goal, first period. That's a bet I've made a lot against teams coming home off a long road trip, taking the opponent first goal, first period to pounce on them. But that team being sluggish out of the gate coming off a long road trip. But credit to Pittsburgh. They responded after giving up that first goal to Chicago and beat them 6-2, 5 straight wins. They're scoring in bunches right now. Raquel and Crosby, it's not just them anymore. You're seeing a lot of depth contributions from Ben Kindle, others down the lineup that have really chipped. Anthony Mantha is suddenly scoring some goals too for this Pittsburgh team, and he's been kind of a disappointment at times in his NHL career. And they're defending. This is a team that was hideous defensively a month or two ago, and now all of a sudden they're getting saves and they're keeping the puck out of the net. So this is Pittsburgh or pass for me, Andrew. It's just a question of how do I approach it. Maybe Pittsburgh team total over 3.5. If you trust either Shelovs or Stuart Skinner for Pittsburgh, who's been great, by the way, who has been very, very good since joining the Penguins. Maybe you go a Rangers team total under in this game as well, because I certainly don't trust them to put the puck in the net. So probably a Pittsburgh team total over, Rangers team total under. I'd look in those two directions. Probably first period over as well, Andrew. Rangers 9-1 to the first period over in their last 10 games.
Sloppy starts the games for the New York Rangers. Just sloppy starts defensively, not being able to mark their man. And I'll tell you what, seeing those comments post-game, you mentioned it, looking like their dog just died. Like, I mean, these guys look so upset about everything. Artemi Panarin, of course, being sat out. But JT Miller, everyone talked about how he was this honcho captain, and he comes over from Vancouver that was a shit show, and now New York is a shit show. I'm sorry, JT, but you didn't really go to a much better team. The Rangers are dead last in the conference. This team is not looking that great. So from Vancouver to New York, I guess he changed locations, but not too much changed about the ability for this team. I love looking at road home splits. And I know that some people will tell us in these lanes, Ian, that, it doesn't matter. These guys know that it's the same thing. I think it does matter for some teams. And I'm just looking at it right now for the New York Rangers. I will say this. Away, they have a +5 goal differential. On the road, at home, it's -33. So we know how horrific it's been for them at home. But a lot of that's due to the start. But the funny thing is, you look at the away numbers, they've scored 95 goals away, but just 49 goals at home. 95 to 49. Like, that is a drastic difference. So if this is a Pittsburgh Penguins team, and I get what you're saying there about Stuart Skinner, but this is an over I can get behind here. This is no matter who wins, we're going to see goals in this game for me. I mean, I thought it was the last change that people valued. I thought getting the matchups of your choice is a good thing for you. The New York Rangers say, no. We don't like winning at Madison Square Garden for some reason. We're a better offensive hockey club when we're on the road. So this is an over or pass for me. I'm going to stay away from any type of side play.
Like 16-15 on the road for the Rangers and 6-18 at home. That's pretty amazing to see that kind of a drop off home versus road. That's as big a split as you could envision.
It's crazy to look at here, but we'll see what they can do. It's not much to salvage their season right now. They're pretty toast right now. But speaking of salvaging a season, I was talking to Carmine today on Puck Time, and we talked about how it was currently -125 at DK for the Florida Panthers to make the postseason. Now, it's been so competitive for the wild card race in the East, for the Atlantic top 3 spots, for the Metro top 3 spots here. We've got the Winnipeg Jets in Florida taking on the Florida Panthers, opening number -160, total at 5.5. Your thoughts, first of all, on that bet, make or miss the playoffs? And of course, what do you think here about this matchup, Winnipeg and Florida?
For Florida, Andrew, that was gut-wrenching against St. Louis. I mean, the one thing you have to do is you have to at least get a point. You have to get that game to overtime, knowing points are at a premium, and to give up that power play goal in the dying seconds and lose to the St. Louis Blues 5-4, just a very painful loss for Florida and their playoff hopes as they now sit 8 points out of the final wild card spot. The schedule makers have really done a lot of teams dirty this year, as the NHL and all their genius tries to shoehorn all these games in a condensed period of time for every team. But when you look at the Florida Panthers and what they've gone through schedule-wise, since January 6th, do you know they've had to travel to their next game every game since January 6th. They had a 6-game road trip starting January 6th. Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Buffalo, Carolina, Washington. Come back home for 1 game against San Jose. Back on the road for 3 against Winnipeg, Minnesota, Chicago, and they actually swept that road trip. You come back home for 1 game against Utah, which they lost 4-3, and then you go back on the road against St. Louis for 1 game. You lose 5-4, and now you're back home again. You've had to travel to your next game since January 6th every single time. That's 12 games, and you had to travel. I mean, that is just going to wear you down at some point, and maybe that speaks to why, the Panthers have come unglued defensively. Of late. This has just not been a team that's been getting saves. Goalie Bob, you look at all of his advanced numbers. If you look at any sort of goals saved above average, goals saved above expected for Bob this year, nowhere close to as good as we've seen when he's been at his best. And unfortunately for Florida, the guy that's been backing up Bob, he'd been playing pretty well, Daniil Tarasov, until that St. Louis game where he really had a rough night. So goaltending's been lacking. Defensive play's been lacking. Of late for the Panthers. They've given up 9 goals in these last 2 losses, but they have scored 7. We'll see how this one goes against Winnipeg. Winnipeg's a tough team to back. I backed them against New Jersey early in the week because Scott Arniel read his team the riot act after a loss to Detroit. New Jersey, I thought, was a beatable team for the Jets, but of course they can't withstand prosperity. You can't build on it. You can't beat a quality team after that. You lose 4-1 to Tampa Bay. It's very difficult to trust both of these teams right now. I'd probably lean slightly to Florida. At 5.5, I kind of lean with over here in this game because you look at this Jets team, they've allowed 12 goals in the last 3 games combined. We're talking about a Florida team that's had issues the last 2 games in particular, keeping the puck out of the net. So over 5.5 might be something to look at here. And these teams need the points badly. There's no sitting back here. You got to get after it. So over 5.5 might be something I look at here.
That's what I was going to say. I looked at team total over 2.5, minus 120, 125 for the Winnipeg Jets. Full game over 5.5, maybe a little sprinkle on the money line for the Winnipeg Jets. At this point, how much better are the Florida Panthers than the Winnipeg Jets? Because, very similar to, I forgot to mention this when we brought up the Rangers, Ian, but I don't want to backtrack here. So many games to get to, but some goalies are great backups, right? And so Quick, he's obviously had a tremendous career, but was one of the best backups in the league. Then you force him into a starter role with Shesterkin, and he looks different. And then with Florida, dealing with so many injuries, put more pressure on Bobrovsky. Then Bobrovsky shares some of the workload with Tarasov and other goaltenders, and then they start giving up goals. People are forgetting that they're missing Barkov, and they missed Kachuk, and different guys went down. It hasn't necessarily just been an offensive issue this year for the Florida Panthers. And I feel like that's important to mention. So over 2.5 team total for Winnipeg, over 5.5. And I might just sprinkle on that money line for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good spot for them against Tampa, maybe to look in that direction, because Tampa had the outdoor game looming against Boston on Sunday, and Winnipeg just couldn't get it done. So it's not as easy for me to trust Winnipeg, but I do think they could score. Florida could as well. And another thing too, the injuries keep mounting for this Florida team. They've already been without for a while, obviously Barkov and all season, but Seth Jones, and they missed Seth Jones. Seth Jones was playing really well for this team before he got injured. You can see they miss him on the blue line. They miss Dmitry Kulikov. But now Anton Lundell didn't play against St. Louis. He's day-to-day. Maybe he doesn't suit up again. And Brad Marchand got hurt again the other night for the Florida Panthers against St. Louis. What if he doesn't suit up here for Florida? So now, just when they were starting to get back into it, now they've lost a few, fallen out of it again because nobody else seems to be losing around them. And now you got some more injuries added to the list, like an Anton Lundell, who is one of the most underrated players in my mind on this Florida Panthers team. He's a really good player. Not enough people talk about him, and Marchand too. So more injury concerns for the Panthers. It's just been one of those years, right, Andrew? Sometimes the injury bug's just going to bite you hard, and there's nothing you can do to overcome it. And I think we're getting close to that time for Florida.
Well, I'd argue that every team is dealing with it, but they've really dealt with it. Toronto Maple Leafs, they've dealt with it. But I think the next time we see like the World Cup of Hockey or the Olympics, they got to do something else about this schedule. There's no secret that this condensed schedule has been a huge factor in why a lot of these players are getting hurt. There's just
more injuries, more goalie injuries. Like, that's totally absurd that you got Florida traveling to every game from January 6th till now.
The Habs had a stretch in 5 games, 7 days. That's unheard of in NHL hockey. You just don't do that. I mean, I was listening to a podcast. Pierre McGuire said there's teams that haven't had a practice in a month because when you get some time free, you want to give your players a break a little bit. So
they're going to have to plan this NHL season schedule out a whole hell of a lot better the next time it's a Winter Olympic year. That's all there is to it.
Well,
They
World
can't
Cup
be
of
doing this
Hockey in
nonsense
2 years, right?
Yeah.
So not just the Olympics, but World Cup of Hockey as well. So guys, if you're enjoying the video, hit the like button for us. We really do appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe and check out Ian every single day on the ice, guys. Check out myself, of course, on Puck Time and the Pre-Scout, posting every single day. Let's try and get those likes up, and don't miss my NHL card. Looking at one big play at least for Saturday. You guys can get that, of course, wt.buzz/am. You see the link right below you right there. All right, Ian, I've been trying to progress as a handicapper with just reading the market. You know, we all know hockey, but reading the market, this number to me, Flames and Sharks, tells us something here, because we've been seeing the Sharks as favorites in some games. The market has been respecting the Sharks a lot more lately, but this is a road trip that they're on right now. And Canucks, Oilers, now the Alberta double against the Flames. Then they've got the Blackhawks. Then they're going to end it off against the Avalanche here. We're seeing slight favorites here for the Calgary Flames. How do you handicap this game?
This is San Jose all the way for me here. In fact, this is probably going to be one of my stronger sides here on the Saturday card. You look at the San Jose team, tough loss against the Edmonton Oilers. And look, learning experience for a young team. You know, when you're up 3-0, I know Edmonton can explode, and obviously we saw that. For the Oilers, you got to be able to bring that home, especially when you have a 3-0 lead, and especially when you played as well as you did in the first two periods. You really limited the Oilers as far as their transition game, the rush game, and then all of a sudden, all it takes is that one goal you give up early in the third period, gives Edmonton life, gives them momentum, and then the Oilers were able to get the 2 late goals in the third with the extra attacker, and then Hyman in overtime. So very, very tough loss for San Jose. This is a very, very solid mentally strong young team. We're starting to see that, though, because they've been very good, Andrew, off a loss. How good? They lost 6 in a row at the beginning of the season. They lost their first 6 games of the season, San Jose, way back in October. A lot of people forget that. Well, since that 6-game losing streak to begin the regular season, San Jose is 15-4 off a loss. 15-4 in 19 games off a loss. They're on a 5-0 run off a loss entering this game against Calgary. They've been a good team as far as getting that response after a defeat, after a game that doesn't go their way. And I could see them being pretty ticked off about letting that one slip away against Edmonton. And Calgary, I don't want to say they're totally unbackable, but it's damn hard right now to back this Calgary team. They're not scoring goals. Their offense is dormant. They've scored exactly one goal in 4 of their last 5 losses during this 5-game losing streak. They've lost 5 in a row. They haven't won since they traded Rasmus Andersson, who I think you could argue is their best defenseman, certainly him or Uyghur, to the Vegas Golden Knights. And without him, they haven't won a game. And their offense has just totally gone in the tank. I think it's a step-up spot for San Jose here in this game. Calgary, just hard to trust them right now. So Sharks first goal, first period. Sharks first period money line. Sharks full game money line. Probably split among all 3 of those for me.
I like it. The Sharks. Well, look, I will admit I haven't been on the Sharks as much as I'd like to this season. That was quite the crumble. And I'm going to tell you what, I had over 3.5 goals for the Oilers on Thursday night. So to pull that one off, Ian, to pull that one off, that was one of those.
And I had San Jose money line and team total over 2.5 split. So at least I won one of them. So we split.
You know, there's sometimes those games, and I usually punish myself by watching the full game, but I'm watching the Habs and other games, and I check my phone. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Evan Bouchard clap bomb, 19th minute. I was super excited about that. So, look, I think the over here. I understand what you said there about the Flames. I do think they can score against the San Jose Sharks team. I respect what they've done, but let's not forget, they're not beating teams 3-1. They're not beating teams 2-1. This is a team that has a lot of offensive talent. They've got weapons that can score. They're going on the road. If we're talking about reading the market here, why the hell are the Flames minus 130 against the Sharks? You know, is it just the road trip? What's the market thinking? If we want to respect the sports books even in the slightest, we got to think we're going to get some type of effort out of the Calgary Flames. But my thing here, Ian, is that I don't think they're going to be able to contain the Sharks. I think that if the Calgary Flames even slightly contribute to the scoreboard, we get over this total. So I'll look at the over here in this one. I get the lean towards the San Jose Sharks and the play, and I understand team total, first period, all that stuff. But, because the Oilers looked pissed, and I think it was a couple goals in 5 minutes. I think that game actually, honestly, even though I'm biased with a play on it, I know you had a play as well, but I think the Oilers played better than the score indicated for that full 60. Like, I think the Sharks did give up some chances, so I'm going to go over in that one, but that's a 4 p.m. Eastern start. Look forward to seeing the effort, but it's something to watch going into the Olympic break and coming out of the Olympic break. There's so many teams playing well, a lot of buyers. The Calgary Flames are evidently going to be sellers. How do some of these sellers start to look? Because as you mentioned, Rasmus Anderson, he leaves. They've not won a game yet since he's been gone. So, but I'm going to go for the over here, and I think we'll see some goals in this one. Keeping things going here to our next game. We've got Carolina. We've got Washington minus 140 Metropolitan Division matchup here. Let's not forget the Capitals. They were the top dogs last year in the Metro, and the Hurricanes are saying, hey, hold my beer. That's us. We're the top dogs in this division this year. This Capitals team, though, man, they've been a little bit up and down here over the last couple weeks. What's your take, Canes and Caps?
My first thought on this game is this absolutely brutal spot for the Washington Capitals. When you think of how long that road trip was for the Capitals, and again, this is the schedule makers doing a team a very bad and unfair disservice. But hey, that's happening to a lot of teams this year. That's a 6-game road trip through Colorado, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Seattle, and then they make a 1-game pit stop after being in Seattle in Detroit. They do win that game 4-3. To end the road trip with a W. They end the road trip going 2-4. It had been a kind of a disappointing road trip for the Capitals, especially when you factor in that they lost to Vancouver, on that road trip as well. But they end it with a 4-3 shootout win, and more importantly, they already have lost Logan Thompson day-to-day to injury. The Capitals. That's why Charlie Lindgren started for the Washington Capitals against the Detroit Red Wings. So Thompson's already day-to-day. And we saw what happened to Charlie Lindgren at the end of overtime. He got injured, and, they couldn't replace him because Logan Thompson wasn't even there to replace Charlie Lindgren. And he had to finish and gut through the shootout there in that game despite suffering a lower body injury, and somehow was able to gut through it and get a win for Washington against the Detroit Red Wings. And we all saw after the game, there's the Capitals basically helping Charlie Lindgren get to the dressing room after that game, after suffering the injury. So what's going to happen from a goaltending standpoint here in this game for the Washington Capitals? What if Logan Thompson can't go because he's day-to-day? What if Charlie Lindgren can't go in this game because he's also day-to-day for the Washington Capitals now after the injury that he suffered in the game against Detroit last night? So you've got all kinds of question marks now all of a sudden about who will be in net. Will it be Thompson? Will it be Lindgren? And if it's neither, have you heard of the name Clay Stevenson? Because Clay Stevenson was recalled from Hershey at the American Hockey League called up to Washington here just in case neither Thompson or Lindgren will be available for this game against Carolina. So you factor in those concerns, coming off a 6-game road trip, including that 1-game stop in Detroit, first game home off a trip of that length. I do not anticipate Washington's A game. I certainly don't anticipate a strong start, and obviously they have a good Carolina team coming in here off an incredible comeback win. I mean, they were down 2 goals late in that third period to Utah and somehow won it. Brutal loss if you're the Mammoth, but this for me is another one of these first goal, first period looks to Carolina, probably Carolina first period money line, probably the full game in some capacity as well on the Hurricanes. These have been spots that have been sweet spots for me from a betting standpoint this year, Andrew. These long road trips and just betting against these teams, especially early in the game, to come out of the gate sluggish and give up that first goal. Wouldn't be shocked if we see that here with Washington.
I can tell you like those bets. Very cool. The first goal, first period. And yeah, a lot of it's just about getting off to a good start, or, these teams getting off to sloppy starts. So, and we'll give a special shout out to Chris Otto, does great work, always posting on X, and he keeps us up to date with some great first period trends as well. I actually had Chris on the show, Ian. It was great to chat with him, and he brings a lot of information. So those first,
like I always say, he's doing God's work for us, Andrew.
Yeah, valuable, man. They're valuable, yes. valuable. I'll just keep it short and sweet for me in this one. Sometimes the home team doesn't feel like the home team. That's how I feel about this one. this team, these players haven't slept in their own beds for which feels like weeks. There's a lot of traveling, as you mentioned, a lot of the information you stated, I agree with. So this to me is a team total. I love the team totals. I love this price range for team totals. You get a real good number. I think if the Canes win, they put up 4. And I'll tell you the big difference I've noticed with the Hurricanes this year compared to years past. They can win first to 5. They can win first to 2 or 3. They can beat you anyway. In years past, it was, we're going to make you fall asleep watching us play Rod Brind'Amour hockey. You're not falling asleep as much anymore watching the Brind'Amour style of hockey. He's kind of adapted to new school hockey. They're a little bit more fun to watch, Ian. So for me, I think team total up and over 3.5. Tough spot here for the Washington Capitals. Really, really is. So
I look
forward to hopefully this game.
I like that team total. I think that's definitely something I might look at as well, because let's be honest, even if they have Thompson and Lindgren available, Andrew, for this game, the Capitals have given up 4+ goals in 5 of their last 7 games. So, they have really had a hard time keeping the puck out of the net. And if it's Clay Stevenson, then obviously you're even more concerned about the lack of quality defending that we have seen from the Capitals lately. Plus, I'm hearing whispers, and this could be a full game over game too. I'm starting to hear some rumblings that this could be a Freddie Anderson start for the Carolina Hurricanes. And if you've watched that guy play this year, he's not someone to trust.
Got to feel bad for that guy with the injuries he's dealt with, but in and out of the lineup way, way too much. And we haven't seen much great stuff out of him. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, hit the like button as mentioned. Let's try and get those likes up super, super high for this video. We appreciate Ian joining us here on the Every Game on the Board. We're trying to go fast, but there's so much information and so much to get to on a 14-game slate. So also, guys, comment. Let us know who you're betting. We're always curious. I want to hear from you guys. And once again, don't miss out on my big play for Saturday. We do have a 5% play. We're 4-1 in January on 5% rated plays. That's across NFL and the NHL. So I got one play isolated. When there's only one game on Friday, it's pretty easy to start your handicapping for Saturday. And I already found one play that I like quite a bit. So look forward to rocking and rolling. And once again, guys, don't miss Ian Cameron every single day on the Ice Guys, breaking things down with, of course, our guy, Alex B. Smith, and a bunch of other hosts as well. New Jersey and Ottawa. I came out with this statement, and I was trying to be bold, of course, maybe get a couple headlines, but I said that Ottawa is the most underrated Canadian team, and it kind of looked like a little bit of a blip at this point because, well, they hit a wall, and a lot of it, though, is because of their goaltending. And Ian, I never played goaltender in my life. I wasn't a keeper in soccer when I was a kid. I didn't do any of that, but I always defended goalies. But it was hard to defend any of the goalies for this Ottawa team this season. How do you feel about their matchup on Saturday?
Ottawa and I don't really look at as much as you or some other people the advanced numbers, but I'm aware of them, and I know that Ottawa does have a lot of good advanced numbers this year that point to this team being probably a better team than their record, and they've just been let down by really the absence of Linus Ullmark, because whether it was Levi Merrilainen, whether it was Hunter Shepard for a little bit, and James Reimer, he'll have one good game, he'll have one bad game. That's just what you get with James Reimer. It's what you gotten out of him in his career for many, many years now. The goaltending has just let them down. That there have been instances where Ottawa's not given up many shots, not given up as many grade A scoring chances, and yet the puck is still going in the freaking net because the goaltending is just not adequate enough. And that has really set Ottawa back this year and put them in this spot where they're bringing up the rear, tied for dead last in the Atlantic Division right now with their provincial rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they're off a couple of very good home wins, Vegas, Colorado, back-to-back, 7-1, 5-2. And in both of those games, we did see a step-up goaltending performance from both of their guys. Mads Sogard, who he's recently recalled because of Merrilainen's struggles. He started against Vegas, played well. And, of course, it was a better outing from James Reimer the other night when they beat Colorado. If they can even get solid goaltending, just don't give up the back-breaking goal, right? Don't give up the goal the save, or give up the goal that you should stop. Make the saves you're supposed to, but even those have been difficult for Ottawa. So I like what I'm seeing from them, though. They're getting some contributions from multiple people. They're keeping the shots on. Like, they've given up 19, 20, and 18 shots the last 3 games. If you keep doing that, that's going to win you a lot of hockey games. I don't trust Jersey. I know they beat Nashville 3-2. They had lost 2 in a row before that. We'll see if they can carry that over here. But to me, this would be Ottawa in some form for me. Maybe you look at team total over regardless of whether it's Markstrom or Allen in net for the Devils. One thing I want to point out, too, about Jersey is Jack Hughes getting injured again.
Big
Not
time,
what you
man. He
want to
can't
see.
stay healthy, and he can't stay healthy.
No, lower body. Sheldon Keefe said he was not overly concerned about it. So it sounds like it's not long-term. But is it enough to keep him out of this game Saturday night against Ottawa? Something to watch for.
We'll have to make sure they're going to be real careful with him. And obviously he has hopes to be an Olympian, to go over there to Italy. So, we'll keep an eye on that situation as far as Jack Hughes is concerned. The big thing for me with the New Jersey Devils has always been depth. I just think they lack it overall. And how about Palat? I mean, gets a goal in his first game with the Islanders. You got to love that. He's like, all right, see you later, guys. I'm going to go score some goals somewhere else. I just think that this Ottawa team actually does have offensive weapons. They can create plays, and you give them some good goaltending and some good defensive play, and they'll make you pay. So this is going to be one of those teams. They're not going to make the playoffs, Ian. I don't have them as a playoff team, but there's going to be some times where we can make some money on them. I think in the next month or two. I truly believe that we're going to be able to make some money on this team. All right, guys, as I always mention, this show is, of course, brought to you by the HOFapp.com, Hall of Fame Sports, and you guys can use the code Andrew to get 7 free days of the HOF app, but more importantly, 50% off your first subscription. So you can sign up for 7 days. If you like it, you stick around, you get half off your first subscription. But it's just fantastic because you're going to be able to try everything out. You're going to be able to test the waters and see how you feel about everything. And I'll tell you what, guys, looking at this screen for a Saturday board, it's exciting to look at. I mean, you've got 14 games to scroll through. You click on any game of your choice, and you get to figure out which matchups you think will make you the most money as far as the prop betting market is concerned. And, when I look across at some of these games, let's start with, let's look at the Colorado and Red Wings game. As always, guys, you look at it, they're going to give you the odds right here. Then we scroll down, we're going to get the matchup. Going to see who's first in goals, 12th in goals allowed, first in shots on goal, 17th in shots on goal allowed. We go to injuries here. The HOF platform will always tell you guys who the injured player is, who's day-to-day, who's questionable, all that good stuff. It can keep you up to date. And then here's everybody's favorite part of the app, of course, is the player props and the grading system. Let's take a look at it, guys. You look at the A's, the B's, the F's, try and find who are bets on, who are bet against. Take a look at our guy, Arturi Lehkonen, looking at a B- grade here for him. And we got a goal scoring prop plus 300 already up at FanDuel. But this is what I'm looking at here is the shots on goal prop. You've got a Detroit Red Wings team that ranks 29th in the league in shots on goal allowed against left wingers. They are 17th in the league overall in shots on goal allowed, but they are 29th in the league against left wingers. This is information you are only going to find on the Pre-Scout and on the HOF app. So I love using this app. You look at the grading system, figure out if a good bet is there. If a bad bet is there, look if you bet unders or overs. And as always, you can use the trends tool. You can use the leaders tool. And you can look at, hey, who's hot right now? The last 10 games, who's scoring? Zach Hyman with a goal in 7 of his last 10 games. Alex DeBrincat with a goal in 7 of his last 10 games. You look at Pavel Dorofeyev, Alex Tuck, Cole Caulfield. You look at head-to-head numbers, which I love looking at to see who's doing well against certain teams. It is the great app that you guys should be on. There's so many apps out there like this one, but if you're going to use one, I believe HOF app is the spot for you guys. And of course, if you're going to sign up, make sure you use the promo code Andrew. Very simple. You sign up, get 7 days, test the waters, see how you like it. And, I'll bring Ian back with this, and I'll just say, look, it's one of those things here where the NHL, we all know Nikita Kucherov, we all know Connor McDavid, but maybe you don't know the third liner that plays really well against the Vancouver Canucks. Maybe you don't know that this team gives up a lot of shots on goal against defensemen. And these type of websites will help you with that because Ian's got a segment on his show, The Ice Guys, called the Bargain Bin Special. And whether it's a player to playing super well or whether it's a good matchup or whether it's, hey, this player does really well against this team. And a couple days ago, using the HOF app, I hit like a plus 375 on James Van Riemsdyk to score a goal. And I'll tell you, not many people are betting on James Van Riemsdyk to score goals these days, Ian.
There we go. Unmute myself. The Ice Guys family is betting JVR. I can tell you that. We have talked about JVR a few times on the show about how he's been undervalued. And even though, he's not JVR in his prime anymore, but he's been stepping up offensively, scoring goals for Detroit. And yeah, you've been able to get those good prices with him in that 300, 400 range with him to score goals. But yeah, the bargain bin special of the night segment, Andrew, we started it, at the beginning, I think, of last season. We just said it's a cool segment. Plus 300 or better prop. What's our favorite plus 300 or better goal prop? Actually, it could be any prop as long as it's plus 300 or better. Started that segment, and it's just caught on. People love it. The results have been really good, beyond our wildest expectations, that the results have been as good as they've been with the bargain bin special of the night segment. And it's cool. It's great to bet Connor McDavid's and Sidney Crosby's and all that, but to be able to go down the board, reach into that bargain bin and cash a plus 600 on some occasions goal prop, it's hard to find a better feeling than that, my friend.
Absolutely. And that's what websites like the HOF app will help you with. And I'll tell you one that I like for Friday night that, hey, hopefully people are listening to this will know that it cashed. But Zach Werenski, I have him over shots on goal. Chicago's the worst team in the league against defenseman shots. You know what I mean? So everybody likes Werenski, but you might not have found that out without using a website like that. Werenski shots on goal. I got a little bit of a ladder going. 3, 4, 5. We'll try and have a fun night on a Friday night, but we'll see how that goes. But Ian, I don't want to keep you too long, man. We got a handful of games. We'll try and blast through it. But the next one, I got to get your analysis here. I already touched on this game on Puck Time, so I'll skip my turn. But Montreal and Buffalo, what do you think here? We beat Vegas. We beat Colorado. We're struggling against Buffalo. What's your take on this matchup?
Yeah, obviously this is a great matchup, and you're right. They've been a kryptonite, the Buffalo Sabres, to the Montreal Canadiens, and they played each other just twice already this month. Buffalo winning both times, 5-3 in Buffalo, and then 4-2 in Montreal in those two games, January 15th, January 22nd. Worth noting, two goalies that I am sure you're not going to see starting in this game for Montreal did start in those two games. Jacob Fowler in one, who's now down in Laval again in the American Hockey League, and of course Jonathan Samuel, I should say, Montembeault for the Montreal Canadiens the last time, and he struggled in that game. I remember it. I mean, Beck Malenstein, I know, scored a short-handed goal, and you got to use a poke check, man. He just, just froze him and went around him. So it was a rough night for Montembeault. Obviously, as a Habs fan, the clamoring, for Montembeault not getting as many starts has grown very, very loud in Montreal. And it looks like they're ready to rock and roll with Jakub Dobeš because he's the only guy left standing right now. He didn't trust Fowler. He had a little bit of a rough patch, sent him back down. Montembeault, has struggled again the last few starts. So it's probably going to be Jakub Dobeš, who, again, did not start in either game against Buffalo earlier this month. Unbelievable run for Alex Lyon. Will it be Lyon here? I know Lindy Ruff has gone back and forth between his goaltenders, but now with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen injured, and now Colton Ellis being the number 2 goalie, I know Lindy Ruff has alternated goaltenders a lot. This might be the time he starts to run with Alex Lyon a little bit, especially when you factor in the 10 consecutive wins he's had, as a starting goaltender. Franchise record achieved with that win against Los Angeles on Thursday night. But he's been very good of late for the Buffalo Sabres. We'll see if it continues here. It's tough because Montreal-Buffalo, I think, goals, and we've seen, certainly a high-scoring game with the Buffalo-Montreal game. The first time it was 4-2. The second time. One thing I do want to point out with these two teams, with Buffalo in particular, 8-2 first period overrun. I think that is something I'll look at. The LA Buffalo game is a perfect example. We cashed a first period over in that game. Buffalo getting on the board twice. They're on a 9-2 first period overrun now. This could be another one of those games where we get the goals early. Maybe it simmers down because I do think Dobeš, the arrow's up on his recent performance, and Lyon's been good. But I do think we could see a couple early. Maybe then it slows down a bit. But I do like that first period over. I can't go against Buffalo, Andrew. Sorry to say it. I don't know if I'll be laying $135 with them, though, either, because I do think you're going to get a hell of an effort from Montreal. And there's no question they're coming into this game with a boatload of confidence after knocking off the Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche in back-to-back games. So I'm honest. I'm close to maybe taking a shot with Montreal, but don't know if I will.
Yeah, they've been a great team this year offensively. And, man, I'll tell you, every single day I watch this team, I miss Carey Price, Ian, because my whole childhood I watched them have no wins unless they only, gave up 2 goals, right? Like, I mean, they couldn't score. And now they have a team that can score. If they can get some productive goaltending, 17-5-3. You know what those numbers are? That's the record right now for Jakub Dobeš. Nobody would really believe me because he hasn't even played that many games. You call up Jacob Fowler, you get Montembeault going, but Montembeault's the one making the big bucks, so they got to try and get him going. Respectfully saying this to Dobeš, we saw him kind of have a little bit of a breakdown after one game, earlier in the year. Kind of an emotional player, but when he gets his swagger going, he plays pretty high level. Over saves will probably be a look for me in this one. I don't know if I can get to the under on this game. You talked about it first period, full game, but over saves might be a good bet for me with Jakub Dobeš in this one. They're going to need him. They're going to need a good defensive effort, but they're going to need him to play pretty well in this one. All right, got to keep it going here. Next one, Columbus and St. Louis. I don't see as many numbers here. I'm seeing closer to -120 at a couple books. 6.5 is the total. Obviously, Columbus is one of the teams playing on Friday night. You and I don't know the score of that one. I'll just tell you this. The opening number being -120, Rick Bowness has Columbus playing so well. I'm tempted, without even knowing what happened on the Friday night game, recording this Friday afternoon, I'm tempted to back the Columbus Blue Jackets here. But one thing I'm going to say to you is that I think that people are kind of counting out the back-to-back unders. It's kind of a system I've been following. We used to automatically bet back-to-back overs. I've noticed kind of a back-to-back under angle lately, Ian, where you see actually more exciting hockey on night 1 and then fewer goals on night 2.
Yeah, this is interesting here because they decided, Columbus, that is, to go with Elvis Merzlikins Friday against Chicago, save Jet Greaves for Saturday against St. Louis, and I still think Greaves is the better of the 2 goalies. That being said, Elvis Merzlikins it's not just the forwards and the defensemen that have gotten a coach bump from Rick Bowness. Elvis has too. Elvis has been a little bit better since Rick Bowness got there. The whole team has, obviously. There's no question about that. They're 6-1 in the 7 games since the coaching change. We'll see how they fare against Chicago. But St. Louis, what do I always say? I don't love backing the worst teams in the NHL off a win. And that was one hell of a win for St. Louis against Florida in the dying seconds of that game. They do have the rest advantage, and this will be back-to-back for Columbus. But Columbus is a one-way team for me now, Andrew, until they start stumbling under Bones. It's bet Columbus or pass the game. So it's Jackets or pass for me. I will throw out a prop here. We talk about bargain bin price level. This guy's red hot. He just played his 1,000th career game for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he's been on a scoring binge lately offensively. Take a look at Charlie Coyle. You're definitely going to get him plus 300 or better for Columbus to find the back of the net. He is someone worth looking at for a goal prop here. This 1,000th career game, and he is playing some real good hockey for the Jackets and finding the back of the net right now.
He is playing real well. Yeah, he's someone contributing to everything with that team. And as you talked about with Greaves getting the go tomorrow, that could even help my case with looking towards the under. So just a reminder for everybody at home, don't think just because it's a back-to-back that means always goals. We could see an under on second half of back-to-back. Next one here, Toronto, Vancouver.
One last thing before we go on. Rick Bowness is preaching better defense to this day. That's what
he
put it on the whiteboard. When he first talked to the team, when he first addressed the team after getting hired, he said 29th in goals against, 30th in slot chances against, right on the whiteboard for them to see. Yeah. That's our ticket out of the playoffs, was his exact quote. Those numbers on that board. How are we going to fix that is going to determine how we get back into this race.
Because it's no secret. They had no struggle scoring goals, Ian. They had no struggle scoring goals. They just simply couldn't defend, and they couldn't keep the puck out of their own end here. Look, you and I could go on rants forever about this Maple Leafs team, and I'd love to bash them with you. We're a little bit short on time, but Maple Leafs and Canucks, I think it's a 4-6 record against them last 10 games. This is kind of a little bit of a surprising opening number around minus 150 based on the struggles. Reading the market wise, we're seeing some respect here. And I guess that's just an all-time disrespect towards the Canucks. Any quick thoughts on this one?
I can't lay this price with Toronto right now, not in their state at the moment. But, do you trust Vancouver to win 2 in a row? That was impressive. Nikita Tolopilo, of all people, with a shutout against the Anaheim Ducks in their last game. But I'm not sure I trust them to be able to do that again. I'm just seeing who the projected goalies are now. As of now, of course, this could change. But Joe Woll for Toronto, Kevin Lankinen for Vancouver projected here in this game. Toronto's on a crazy first period overrun, so I know I'm interested in that. First period over in this game, Toronto and Vancouver. Toronto hasn't won in Vancouver in 6 years. That's amazing. This has been a haunted house. This has been a house of horrors for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto's had great teams over these years, and they've still never been able to win in Vancouver. The Canucks have owned them in this building. So I would lean Canucks. I don't know if I'll bet it, though, but I think there's goals. First period, full game over. I'm interested.
Yeah, I might go first period Maple Leafs. Actually, I think that this is a team that's we've learned can't be trusted for a full 60 minutes. Whatever type of pride this team has, I mean, we've been saying this for weeks, but I do think we get a good effort out of them because let's be real here. If we're going to give credit to Seattle for one thing, Seattle's pretty good at making games boring and defensive a little bit, and the Maple Leafs were struggling as it was. But if we look at this Maple Leafs team, there was a game the other day where they scored 4 goals and they lost 7-4. It's not necessarily just their scoring that's an issue for them, but I do think they can outscore the Vancouver Canucks. So we'll see if it's a team total number maybe, but I think first period is the way to go when it comes to this Leafs team. Nashville and the New York Islanders here. How about this New York Islanders team, man? Matthew Schaefer makes a comment. We're going to beat the Rangers whenever we play them when it gets drafted and he comes through. That guy's got some swagger, man. Matthew Schaefer. I like that kid quite a bit. This number, minus 140 now. Opener number was minus 150. Total at 5.5. How do you feel about this one? Home spot for the New York Islanders.
The Islanders, long term this season, they haven't always been great in the home favorites role. But again, that goes out the window when you're playing the New York Rangers because the Rangers are that bad. And obviously they were favorites against the Rangers at home earlier this week, and they still got the job done 5-2. But now they've had a nice week. They've shut out Philadelphia. They beat the Rangers back-to-back games there. I don't think it's the greatest spot here for the Islanders by any stretch of the imagination. They play Washington after this. Nashville needs wins. And Nashville's starting to slump a little bit. That is concerning. They did start Eustace Onanen. I call him useless Onanen, Andrew. And anyone that watches the Ice Guys knows that. He is useless. He's terrible. Savage. He's awful. And, of course, predictably, he's in net against New Jersey. They lose that game in overtime, and they can't hold the lead. And the back-to-back frustrating road losses in overtime to Boston and New Jersey. They're 1-5 in their last 6. But I lost backing Nashville against New Jersey, but the schedule's been tough for Nashville. Colorado, Vegas, Edmonton, Buffalo, red hot. Utah's been red hot lately. Boston is tough to beat at TD Garden. They have a great home record. The New Jersey game's one they should have won because I think they should have beat New Jersey. New Jersey's been inconsistent, but they lost in overtime. I'm considering Nashville here as a road underdog in this spot. They've played well against the Islanders, 8-2 in the last 10 meetings. They won in a shootout earlier this year against the Islanders. Nashville needs the points badly. I could see them maybe being live here in this game. The draw, we have draw bets, as you know, Andrew. We will take our shot with some draw bets. Last 2 meetings have gone past regulation. Both of Nashville's last 2 games have gone past regulation as well. So I think Nashville in the draw. I'm interested in both here.
Yeah, we've got to give our respect to the New York Islanders for what they've done this season. I think that this might be the role I prefer the Nashville Predators in. I think on the season, they're kind of in that spot, though, that nobody really wants to be in. They're not going to be a lottery team. They're not going to be in the playoffs, probably. They're in that no man's land. And I talk about that across multiple sports where, you're kind of stuck in the mud. But with that position, it means there's going to be times where they're going to be barking dogs. So I think this could be a number we could look towards Nashville here. Dallas and Utah. This Dallas team, they almost gave away their lead against the Vegas Golden Knights. Lucky for them, Vegas, the worst team in the league as far as shootouts and overtimes. I keep talking about it. This Vegas Golden Knights team, they've got they had fewer wins than the Jets and Utah and multiple teams that aren't even really in solid playoff spots. But Dallas ends up getting the win. So we got Utah here. It's close to a pick 'em actually at 5.5. What's your up-to-date status on this Utah team? How do you feel about them?
Utah's been playing well, and to be honest with you, they had lost to Tampa Bay 2-0 on the road trip, but they beat Nashville, they beat Florida, although Florida's struggling. So that's not as impressive a win as it looked when they did beat Florida, when Florida goes on and loses to St. Louis after that. But then I thought they played very well against Carolina. Good team in their building, not easy. But then they're up 4-2. They're in position to win. And to lose that game, Andrew, and not get a point out of it, lose in regulation to Carolina, just an incredible collapse for the Utah Mammoth. How are they going to respond from that? Could go one of both ways. They're pissed off, they're angry, and they come out guns blazing here at home against Dallas. Or it could be a hangover effect. Like, how do you pick yourself up off the mat, off a loss like that? It's brutal. But it is off a 4-game road trip. They could be sluggish early. Dallas is coming off they survived. Boy, oh boy, did they survive. They had a 4-1 lead, coughed it up, but then rescued themselves in a shootout against Vegas to win that game. Maybe Dallas first goal, first period. Again, it's that angle of the team off the road trip. It's been strong, especially the first goal, first period derivative bet. And that's the great thing. Look at the derivative markets. There's always different ways to bet certain teams. And this could be a good first goal, first period Dallas spot.
This is a first period over. I haven't mentioned one first period over bet that I really liked quite a bit today so far. I do like this one over 1.5 first period. It's always nice when you have a spot that you like this with a 5.5 as the total, which typically means you're going to get a pretty good price on the first period over. Kind of funny. I love looking at 5-on-5 numbers when I look at my analytics. I also like looking at last 5 or 10 games. Forget about analytics when it comes to full season. I'm a hockey guy and eye test guy. I love watching the game. But I do like to look at the analytics every now and then. And if I do, it's not going to be I'm not going to tell you, oh, well, Ian, back in November, who cares about November? And the last 10 games, Utah is one of the best teams as far as expected goals for, and they're one of the worst teams in expected goals against. That is an absolute, recipe for an over. So first period over 1.5, wouldn't talk anybody out of the full game over.
5 of the last 6 meetings, Dallas, Utah, 1-goal games. Decided by 1. This could be in one where the draw might be worth a look as well.
Okay, a little bit of a draw. What about the totals there from what you're seeing? Because this game, to me, I do think I see some goals happening here.
Yeah, 5.5. I lean over. Utah, 2 straight overs. Utah, 2 straight overs, but 5-1 to the over in their last 6. And you look at that last homestand they had. The Philly, Seattle game, the Toronto game went over the total. The St. Louis game went over the total. The one concern is we've seen all the games in Utah head-to-head stay under. But I'm with you. At 5.5, I do lean over.
All right. A couple more games to get to here, guys. If you've enjoyed this, if you're still with us here, hit the like button. We got to get to 350 likes at least here. Show some love. Try and bump up those like numbers and get in the comment section. Tell Ian, tell myself, tell us what you guys are betting on this 14-game NHL slate. We love hearing from you. It's not just about our picks. It's about you guys as well. Minnesota and Edmonton, I'll tell you what, this Edmonton team, what a comeback from them. We already talked about it a little bit here. Minnesota, they're off a good performance, but it was against a pretty bad team. Edmonton just won 3 games in a row for the first time all season, which was a crazy stat to find out. Can they make it 4, Ian?
All right, here we are. This is the part of the show I was waiting for, because I've had a really nice NHL season, Andrew, and a big part of it has been this team and this unreal totals streak that we have seen with the Minnesota Wild. It really is remarkable. The Minnesota Wild in their last 17 games, 15-2 to the over. 15-2 to the over in their last 17 games. And since Quinn Hughes arrived in that trade with the Vancouver Canucks, how about 17-5 to the over for the Minnesota Wild since Quinn Hughes got there. And it makes sense. Quinn Hughes transforms the blue line. Quinn Hughes makes them, the rush up the ice is much more smoother. They get the offensive traction gets on going a lot better. There's no doubt they're not spending as much time in their own zone, and they have scored more goals since Quinn Hughes got there. So, conceptually, the overrun that Minnesota's on, which is a crazy run, makes sense. Now, their last game stayed under, but I blame that all on Calgary, because Calgary just can't put a puck in the ocean right now. So that's why that game stayed under. And, of course, it was a 4-1 Minnesota final. But still, it's 15-2 to the over in their last 17 games. I'm going back to it. They're also been a good first period over team. The first period over did cash in that Minnesota-Calgary game, even though the full game stayed under. Minnesota, 10-1 run to the first period over to go along with that 15-2 full game over. So I'm going to do what I call, and people on the Ice Guys that watch that show know this, the over bifecta. I call it the over bifecta. And it's actually a term used by Matt Robinson, one of our regular guests on the show. And what that is first period over and full game over. I will be on both here in this Minnesota-Edmonton game.
I mean, who doesn't want to see a Saturday night Edmonton Oilers game with goals? It makes it that much better, this Oilers team. And, you know, I don't think they know how to play hockey any other way, Ian. They want to, they try to. They don't know how to play games any other way. And the Wild, as you mentioned.
Not with frickin' Frack in net for them right now. Connor Ingram and
yes.
And geez, who's the other guy? I'm blanking on it now.
Jari,
yeah, with those two guys, yeah, exactly. Not with those two in net. It's hard to play that lower scoring hockey and Jari's had a real rough go. Let's be honest. He has really had a tough time. He has not been what Skinner's been to Pittsburgh so far since that trade occurred.
Well, yeah, I never like to comment on this stuff, but it really did seem like Stuart Skinner kind of dealt with some confidence issues, you know, and he gets over to a new location and he's just being treated a little bit better. And I know Pittsburgh's a diehard city, but let's be honest, Edmonton is just next level with their hockey, and some of the fans wanted him out of there. Power play props for Minnesota Wild players, power play props for Edmonton Oilers players. If you like the over, you like player props in that one. I'll tell you who's been a good guy for me is Tarasenko. Shots on goal, power play points. He's been fantastic to look at. So, yeah, I wouldn't talk anybody off goals in that one.
Tarasenko when he's playing well.
Yeah, he's been fan. Man, I'll tell you what, ever since some guys got injured, he stepped up and he hasn't really looked back. So that was good to see. All right, Vegas coming off a tough loss here. I'll tell you what, this is one of those ones here where I think this is the good old-fashioned Vegas Golden Knights home game, first period over 1.5. When Vegas is at their best, they're getting off to fast starts. Early and often for the Vegas Golden Knights. Wouldn't shock me to see a -0.5 goal first period. Wouldn't shock me to see over 1.5 goals first period. But they're not going to be happy about their last couple games. Tough road trip for them. Tough first game back against Dallas. This game should have some spice to it. I'll take the over 1.5 first period.
I wouldn't talk you out of that at all. Seattle, by the way, how about that? You wouldn't think this of Seattle. We think under Lane Lambert, defense first, trouble scoring goals sometimes. But the Seattle Kraken enter this game 11-2 to the first period over in their last 13 games. That's quite the run for Seattle. We know Vegas long-term, going back to the beginning of last year, how strong first period overs, especially at T-Mobile Arena, have been for them. So, yeah, no argument here from me with first period over. Probably lean to the full game over a little bit here as well. And this could be a game where the draw is live again. That's just what Vegas does. They play a lot of games that go past regulation. 2 straight games have gone past regulation for the Golden Knights. 4 of their last 9 games have gone to overtime or shootout. And you look at head-to-head, Kraken and Golden Knights, 3 of the last 6 meetings have gone past regulation. So this could be another one where the draw is worth a sprinkle.
All right, get that nice plus price on the draw. Ian, thanks so much for your time, man. We'll try and do it again, and maybe I won't keep you for over an hour, but hey, when 2 guys haven't chatted hockey in a while, we got 14 games. It's hard for us to be fast with a slate like this. So we've got just under a week until the Olympic break, and I hope to talk about some Olympic hockey with you in that 2-week frame. So thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate you.
Lots of fun, Andrew. Thanks for having me on. We'll try to get back on with you here on the pre-scout later in the season. You know me; I got to give you an essay on every game. Everyone that knows me knows that all too well. But yeah, great stuff. Looking forward to it. The Ice Guys, check that out. Check out Andrew's show too with Carm here, Puck Time, right here on WagerTalk as well. Like I said, we're all one big hockey betting community. And we all want to see each other do well and cash some tickets and make some profits. So, Andrew, great stuff, and we'll do it again down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ian. Guys, make sure you follow him at Blabano Bets every single day, 7 days a week on the Ice Guys. And if you've enjoyed this video, hopefully you have, hit the like button and make sure you guys check out the HOF app. And if you decide to use that promo code Andrew to get 7 free days of the HOF app and 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out on my big play on Saturday. And of course, you can get a day pass and get every single play that I release as well. Cheers, guys. All the best and take care. Enjoy your weekend and good luck with your hockey bets.